What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am bringing you an expanded deck centered around Ho-Oh-EX and, well, Ninja Boy and Xerneas. So, I mean, mainly the strategy is around those three guys. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you guys like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and click that subscribe button. Helps us out a ton and lets us do more for you guys. And as for the question of the day, this is a deck that I've been kind of putting off doing for a while. I was just waiting for the right time, and then the Guardians Rising cards came out, and I was like, you know what? These cards gave this deck quite a bit to work with, or quite a bit extra to work with. This was already a pretty solid deck, but it gave it a lot more. Well, it gave it a few more options to work with, a few more tech cards that help in certain matchups. So I was like, you know what? It's time to do it. And this weekend was a 24-ticket tournament, so I thought that, you know what, this was a perfect time to do a video on this deck. And I do have to do a quick disclaimer. I am post-narrating this deck list because at the time that I recorded the tournament, it was on a Sunday late at night. I was very busy this weekend, and finally Sunday night rolled around and I was like, oh wait, I only have a couple more hours that this tournament is available. I wanted to do this deck in a tournament, so I just decided to go ahead and record it right then, and then I just figured that I'd do the deck list a little bit later. So sorry for those of you that the illusion is ruined that I'm going straight from the deck list into the tournament. I am post-narrating this deck list, but I mean, hey, it's still a tournament with this deck. And so my question is, with this deck, you can run so many different tech options because obviously it's centered around Xerneas and Rainbow Force for each different type of Pokemon on your bench. That way you can run all sorts of different techs. You can run like fighting tech with Sudowoodo, lightning tech with Jolteon, dark tech with Yveltal. Like, this deck just has so many different tech cards that you can run in it with that have different types, to where, I mean, it just helps Rainbow Force out that much more. So my question is, what type of cool tech cards do you guys run in a Xerneas deck? I mean, I know that Rainbow Road ran a bunch of the dual types. This Ho-Oh Ninja Box just centers around having a ton of different types of Pokemon on the bench. No dual types, unfortunately, but it's just kind of a, well, we have different attackers that we can potentially use with the combination of Ho-Oh and Ninja Boy, so that's where the different types come from in this deck. So yeah, what type of cool tech Pokemon do you guys run in Xerneas-based decks, slash what other tech Pokemon and other additional types do you think could be run in this deck, and why? I'm very curious to see what you guys come up with and what you guys have to say. So yeah, definitely leave that in the comments section down below. And yeah, so on to the deck. Like I said, oh wait, one more thing. I've gotten this complaint a little bit recently about how long my deck lists are, and I just want to emphasize that a ton of new players watch my videos. I leave a timestamp in the description of all my videos so that people who are more experienced, who know what each card does, can just see the deck list and be like, okay, now I know everything I need to. Where do the matches start? So I mean, it's always in the description below, so you guys can just skip the deck list altogether. But a ton of new players do watch these videos, and for those guys, I want to go in depth into each card and why it was selected and why the numbers of each card were selected in this deck, so that they can get a better understanding of the game and they can learn the game and potentially well, I always hope to make somebody a little bit better of a player if they are a new player watching these videos. So I feel that going in depth about each card and why it is used and the quantities of why the quantities are used should help them out, and so that's why my deck lists are a little bit longer. So yeah, if you guys know what's going on, there's a timestamp in the bottom to where you can just go ahead and start the matches, start the tournaments, whatever I happen to be doing. I just do longer deck lists for those people that are just getting into the game and want to know why certain cards are in there in certain numbers. But anyway, on to the deck. I mean, like I said, it's centered around Ho-Oh with Rebirth once during your turn. If this Pokemon is in your discard pile, you may flip a coin. If heads, put this Pokemon onto your bench and attach 3 different types of energy cards from your discard pile to this Pokemon. So basically, you can see we are only running 3 different types of energy. So we're obviously running an attacker that runs on Fairy Energy, an attacker that runs on Darkness energy, an attacker that runs on Lightning energy. And Ninja Boy is how we are going to abuse this. You basically take a basic Pokemon in play, search your deck for a basic Pokemon, and switch it with that Pokemon, all cards attached to it. So basically you rebirth with Ho-Oh, get these 3 different energy onto it, and then Ninja Boy into an attacker of your choosing. The attackers that we're mainly focusing on are obviously Xerneas, Yveltal, and Jolteon, and even at that, Xerneas is the main attacker because we are running so many different types of Pokemon. So the big combo in this deck is Rebirth into Ninja Boy, into Xerneas, and then just hit for tons of damage with Rainbow Force, and that's basically the whole strategy of the deck. As for the rest of the Pokemon, I'm just going to go through them one by one, starting with Shaymin. I mean, Shaymin is there because setup is so ridiculously powerful, and then it's a way of getting a colorless Pokemon on the bench to power up Rainbow Force. Yveltal is another attacker that we are using with Evil Ball. Obviously, we have to have 3 different types of energy in the discard pile, so we can't just throw a bunch of Fairy in there and have Xerneas just get powered up with Fairy every time. So Darkness was one of the ones selected so that we can use Yveltal with Evil Ball and Y Cyclone, just ways of hitting hard, having another attacker, having weakness, having a difference in weakness. Just basically it all comes down to having another attacker, a different type of attacker for certain matchups. For Xerneas, we're going to run the absolute max number because it is the main attacker. And you might be thinking, wait, why are you running 4 Xerneas and only 2 Fairy energy? Well, that's because with Ho-Oh and Ninja Boy, we can easily essentially recycle those energy and put them back onto a Xerneas through Ninja Boy, so that's why only 2 Fairy, but 4 Xerneas. 1 Sudowoodo. This was a card that was in my opinion huge for this deck. With Guardians Rising. It's the first of our Guardians Rising additions in this deck, and with Roadblock, your opponent can't have more than 4 bench Pokemon, and if they have more, they just discard them. So this deck did not have a fighting Pokemon. Sudowoodo fits in there perfectly because this deck runs Skyfield, but it keeps your opponent from being able to take advantage of Skyfield, so really it's just one way, and this card cannot be shut off except with like ability lock or anything like that. So I mean, just countering the stadium does not allow your opponent to have more bench spots. Sudowoodo is just so ridiculously good in Skyfield decks, and particularly in this deck where it gives another type to Rainbow Force. Ho-Oh is our fire type, obviously, like I said, for Rebirth, but there have been situations where I've had to Rainbow Burn, where it does 20 plus 20 for each different type of basic energy attached to this Pokemon. This attack's damage caps out at 80 with potentially 110 with the Choice Band on it, but you're rarely attacking with Ho-Oh. However, I have run into some situations where I have had to, especially against grass decks, but usually you're just not attacking with Ho-Oh, you're just you're just rebirthing and then Ninja Boying. 1 Exeggcute, because I mean, hey, it's a grass type, it's something that you can battle Compressor into the discard pile to help out with the costs of things like Computer Search, Ultra Ball, and in a pinch, it can be another type of Pokemon that you're just like, okay, I need another type, let's just grab Exeggcute out of the discard pile, slap it down onto the bench. 1 Jolteon as our 3rd attacker, because obviously we already have Dark and Fairy in these 2 attackers, so Jolteon is the last one, kind of help out with Night March a little bit, and the other basic decks that we will run into just immediately, like rebirthing into a Flash Ray is very, very, very strong, and something that a lot of decks have trouble with. And also Lightning type gives us another advantage for Rainbow Force. Sorry, I'm like going between Rainbow Force and Rainbow Burn, but Jolteon also has Free Retreat, which makes it as good as it is in this deck. 1 Jirachi, we're actually running Jirachi and Lele, which might seem kind of weird, but Jirachi has Steel typing, which gives Rainbow Force another typing, but it's also something that can be searched out with Hoopa, while Lele cannot, so that's why Jirachi is in this deck as well as Lele. And then as for the Psychics, we're running 3 different Psychic types, which might seem a little bit weird in a deck that relies on having a bunch of different types of Pokemon on the bench, but just hear me out. Hoopa is obviously here to search out like Shaymin, Jirachi, Ho-Oh, just search out all the EXs that we have in the deck, Keldeo in particular. So Hoopa was something that you pretty much could not do without, and also it brings it right into your hand. So if you have like an Ultra Ball or Computer Search, you can search for Ho-Oh and then just immediately discard them with those cards. Oricorio is here to be kind of like an auto win against Night March, because I mean, we already have Jolteon, which is going to be a big problem. We already have a 1 prize attacker in Xerneas, which which will keep our opponent from being able to just take a bunch of knockouts on EXs. Jolteon is a huge problem for Night Marchers, additionally, and finally Oricorio, to me, is just kind of the final nail in the coffin. Supernatural Dance, just being able to just pile up damage counters on our opponent's Night Marchers, and also help out against Vespiquen. So Oricorio is a tech card that I tried out in this deck, and I've run into Night March a couple times, and Oricorio single-handedly dismantles them. Finally, we have another Lele. Well, we have a Lele, just same basic, same ability as Jirachi, but Lele is also a good attacker as well with Energy Drive. Just yet another thing that we can Ninja Boy into in certain situations. Lele is just so ridiculously strong that you don't even have to use its ability for it to be good. And finally, Keldeo is the water Pokemon in this deck for rush in and retreat. I mean, that's pretty much all you use it for. You're never going to attack with it. And so I thought about running water energy, but I decided that I would just go kind of with the standard, with 2-2-2, just so we have energy for our 3 basic attackers and just search, and just to try to focus on them and not try to tech out this deck any more than it already has to be, because I mean, this deck is already 4 lines, which is the first time I've ever used a full page for a deck list. As for the items for Battle Compressor, absolute max number, because we want to put Ho-Oh, Exeggcute, and Energy into the discard pile, as well as potentially some supporters in certain situations to be able to use them and activate via Seeker. 1 Computer Search as the A-Spec of choice, because not only does it throw stuff in the discard pile like Ho-Oh or Exeggcute or Energy that's in your hand, but it gets you any single puzzle piece that you want, which is important in a deck that relies on combos. 1 Field Blower, another thing that helped out this deck from Guardians Rising, just being able to shut off Garbotoxin, because otherwise Garbotoxin completely shuts this deck down because of how many abilities we rely on. Another Guardians Rising card is Rescue Stretcher. We don't want to use Super Rad because we want to keep the energy in the discard pile for Rebirth. Rescue Stretcher allows us to put a Pokemon from our discard pile back into our hand, or shuffle 3 into the deck, just ways of recurring Pokemon. 4 Ultra Ball guaranteed get us what we want when we want, and also discards Ho-Oh and Energy. 4 via Seeker let us reuse all of our supporters. And then as for these supporters, we're kind of running a weird line. 3 Juniper, just because, I mean, this deck likes discarding cards, so we want to run Juniper as the largest number of our supporters. 2 Ninja Boy, because this deck obviously relies on Ninja Boy, so having 1 leaves you susceptible to prizes. And I mean, this deck can function without Ninja Boy, but it's a lot slower and a lot clunkier without it. So that's why we're running 2 of those. 1 N, just because N is very, very strong for disruption, late game, shuffle draw early if you don't have Colress. Colress, because we run Skyfield and we can easily put a ton of Pokemon on the bench. Colress is a shuffle, draw a ton of cards in a lot of good situations. Lysander you have to have, because Lysander is Lysander. AZ is another way of, if we start with a Pokemon that we don't want to start with, like Hoopa, Shaymin, Jirachi, or Ho-Oh, it's a way of just putting them right back into your hand and being able to either play them or discard them later. And then 4 Skyfield, absolute max number, because this deck relies so much on Skyfield and having a bunch of Pokemon in play, particularly the ones with different types, but you want to have those 8 bench spots to hit for a ton of damage. 3 different tools, but 2 attack boosting. 1 Fighting Fury Belt to really increase longevity of Xerneas, and then 1 Choice Band to be able to hit for just a little bit more damage. Choice Band essentially acts like another type of Pokemon on the bench and allows for easier knockouts on the big GXs that are now in the metagame. And finally, 2 Floatstone for, well, Keldeo, Floatstone, just rush in and free retreat, and then also to slap it onto something else that if we don't have a Keldeo in play, or just basically just to have a Floatstone when we need it so we're not stuck with something bad in the active. 4 DCE, absolute max number, because almost all of our Pokemon rely on DCE. I mean, all of our attackers do at the very least. Jolteon relies on it, Yveltal relies on it, Xerneas can rely on it, Lele can rely on it. I mean, basically everything in this deck functions a little bit better with the DCE, and also it's a way of just slapping it onto something and having the ability to retreat, because all of our Pokemon have at most 2 retreat cost. So even though Ho-Oh into Ninja Boy is our way of powering up attackers, DCE is another way of powering them up, and also being able to have retreat options with 1 attachment. And then finally, like I said, 2-2-2 of the energy that our attackers used. So yeah, I've talked for way too long. Let's go ahead and see how I did in the tournament. Alright, so here we are at the tournament select screen, and guys, sorry, I'm going to have to be a little bit quieter than usual because people are sleeping around me. And yeah, let's go ahead and put into the 24 ticket tournament. Grab the Ho-Oh-EX Ninja Box, and yeah, it looks like there are 5 people in there, so it might take a while because it is kind of late at night. So I'm just going to pause it until we have 7 people in, and hopefully can get the tournament started relatively soon. So, slightly awkward. For a good couple minutes, there were no additional people jumping into the tournament, so I just kind of spaced out, went and set my phone down, or plugged my phone in, rather, and then came back, and all of a sudden, like, just 3 people jumped in super quickly, so, yeah, the tournament started before I was able to get the Camtasia up and recording, so a little bit unfortunate, so I did not get to see who we were up against or what they were playing, but I mean, from the looks of it, I mean, we can see their name now, and we can see that it has, that they're water Pokemon, and from the start, I actually have a pretty solid hand, because I mean, I can Ultra Ball, get rid of Lysander and a Ho-Oh, grab like a Hoopa, probably for something. Yeah, the Hoopa is in there, luckily, so let's just go ahead and grab that thing, play the Skyfield down, play the Hoopa. I'm going to save the Float Stone for Keldeo when I get that, so let's just grab, let's grab Keldeo, Shaymin, and Jirachi. Actually, you know what? Let's grab Jirachi and then Ho-Oh. Because what I think I'm going to do with my Jirachi is just grab a, Juniper. That way I can get yet another Ho-Oh in the discard pile. And I do kind of want to get a couple more... I do kind of want to get a couple battle compressors. That way I can start throwing Exeggcute in the discard pile. I can start throwing energy in the discard pile. And yeah, let's just Juniper away my hand. See what we can get. We get nothing that's particularly helpful. If I had a battle compressor, I could have potentially gotten a Ho-Oh out and then played a Lele for a Ninja Boy for next turn and then gotten an attack off, but you know what, we don't have that unfortunately, so I'm just going to attach to the Xerneas and then end my turn right there. Really not the best start overall. I was hoping for at least one battle compressor. That way I could start Ho-Ohing for, that way I could Ho-Oh for some stuff. And my opponent just literally attaches and arrow blitzes. I mean, obviously we played the Glaceon down, but Glaceon's not going to be a problem in this matchup at all because I mean, it's easily going to be knocked out. It's not going to be preventing me from attacking or anything like that. And I get a Darkness Energy. So really does not help out a lot. What I'm going to do, honestly, as much as I don't like getting rid of Shaymin and Lele, playing Shaymin down would literally just be there for the typing, and I don't really need that at this point. So I'm just going to play that, and wow, I get a whole lot of nothing. So let's play the DCE onto the Xerneas. Yeah, I don't think I have enough energy in there. And then let's Rescue Stretcher for... which do I want to grab? I think just Shaymin. Yeah, because Shaymin gives me another type of Pokemon on the bench. I'm going to play the Oricorio down. And then Shaymin for 2 cards, see what I can get if it's anything good. And it's a Lightning and a Fairy. Well, I'll actually be able to attach the Fairy next turn. And then knock out my opponent's Talonflame with a Xerneas. So that's actually pretty solid. Yeah, I'm in a relatively good spot. My opponent does get a Feebas down. I mean, if my opponent discards a bunch of Pokemon, then I can take an easy knockout on the Feebas or the Froakie with my Oricorio. So that might come in to help a little bit. And unfortunately, my opponent ends me. That gets rid of the Fairy Energy, which was huge. And there are all my battle compressors in like Jolteon, so I can't even Ninja Boy my active Xerneas into Jolteon because Jolteon is now in my hand. So unfortunately, I'm just drawing all the wrong stuff right now. But luckily for me, it looks like my opponent's deck isn't like a top tier competitive one. So I'm getting relatively lucky in that regard. So what I think I'm gonna do is I even get the Sudowoodo, which is actually pretty nice. Because I can play that down, limit my opponent's bench to 4 spaces, and yeah, pretty much just go from there. Put a couple Pokemon in the discard pile for my opponent. Unfortunately, there's only going to be 2 Pokemon in the discard pile, so Oricorio won't quite be able to take a cheap knockout on the Feebas with Supernatural Dance. Either way, I really have a whole lot of unplayable stuff in my hand. So what I'm gonna do is I'm obviously just gonna battle Compressor, get rid of a bunch of stuff. My Exeggcute unfortunately is prized, so let's go ahead and battle Compressor, get rid of the Ho-Oh, a Dark, and a Lightning. Do I want to battle Compressor again? Yeah, let's do that. See what all we can get rid of. Let's get rid of one Ninja Boy. That way a VS Seeker activates it. I'm getting rid of my other Fairy Energy. And yeah, let's just get rid of the other Battle Compressor. Normally I like to keep those for late game to thin out cards that I don't need. But at this point I really don't need them. And what I'm going to do right here is just rush in. I'm going to Sky Return, which I really, really hate doing. Especially on turn 3. Like, it is very bad that I have to Sky Return turn 3 with this deck. But my opponent, I mean, luckily doesn't seem to have too much going otherwise. I mean, yeah, he's been able to Aero Blitz twice, and he's about to be able to Aero Blitz a third time, which, I mean, I should have been able to knock out that Talonflame turn 2. I just did not draw into the right stuff at the right time, and we're in not a bad position, actually. My opponent is going to go ahead and Dive Ball. I mean, he's going to be able to get another Aero Blitz off. And the fact that I don't have any of my supporters is actually pretty annoying. But on the bright side, I will be able to hopefully knock out this Talonflame, given different draws that I could potentially get. Because I can play... what can I do? So I get another DCE, a card that I can't play. This is like a perfect example of just drawing the wrong stuff at the wrong... like, oh, I guess Jolteon does go over there. But let's go ahead and just play a Fighting Fury Belt onto the Jolteon. I'm gonna start powering that up just so I can potentially Ninja Boy into Yveltal later in the game if I need. And there's a Computer Search. So if I can hit one of these 3 Ho-Oh, I will be able to finally knock out my opponent's Talonflame, which survived a heck of a lot longer than it should have. And there we go. So I am able to get Ho-Oh down. Let's go ahead and Computer Search, get rid of the darkness and let's just grab the Ninja Boy. That way my VS Seeker can turn into something else potentially, and then let's change that Ho-Oh into a Xerneas. Hindsight 2020 probably should not have gotten rid of the extra darkness energy, because that way I could have just played it onto the Jolteon instead of completely relying on Ho-Oh. But again, that's my inexperience with this deck. However, we are finally able to go into Xerneas, Rainbow Force, knock out the Talonflame, and we get a third Skyfield. Oh, this is actually just comical at this point. One thing I can also do with Jolteon is I can keep playing the DCEs on it, and then eventually just turn that into a Lele. Turn Jolteon into a Lele with Ninja Boy if I can Rescue Stretcher it back into my deck. Which could do similar things to Yveltal, just won't hit quite as hard. But I mean, still, same HP, all that. So I don't think the 20 damage should be too incredibly consequential. I mean, it could be. It very well could be. We all know situations where that's happened to us. And my opponent does just use Melodic. He is able to get a Greninja up, which is slightly unfortunate, but I mean, it's not too worrisome overall. I should be able to deal with that thing relatively easily, and is just going to clear search for 3 cards. I'd really like an N right now, and... well, would you look at that? A VS Seeker cannot turn into N, unfortunately. Wow. So, what I am going to do is just VS Seeker for... I could Juniper, AZ... I have so many options. I could Colress, but that would actually that would deck me out. So I'm not going to do that. Wait, would it? Yeah, because 8, 12... I'd draw 12 cards. And actually, I wouldn't deck out, but, I mean, either way, Lysander, I'm just going to try to speed this game up, because my opponent isn't really running anything that's particularly scary, so I'm not too worried overall. So I am just going to try to speed this up as much as possible. Knock out the Keldeo. I could have knocked out the Greninja, but I just wanted another prize. I was kind of greedy. And we see the Muscle Band. If we see the Greninja break... oh, wow. So my opponent actually got some really good stuff. I mean, obviously off of that clear search, that really sucked. So let's get rid of the Hoopa, the Jirachi, and Yeah, let's throw the Xerneas in there just because that thing's going to be doing nothing. The Jolteon's already on the bench. I'd rather have the Lightning in the discard pile. That way I can take advantage of Ho-Oh as much as I can. And then, oh, we see the Space Beacon as well. So my opponent, yeah, my opponent has all the pieces. Like, all the pieces are there to be able to knock out my Xerneas, which is actually very unfortunate. If I can get a... There's only 5 in the discard pile, unfortunately. So Oricorio, unfortunately, doesn't seem to be doing much in this matchup, and this Battle Compressor actually will be nice. Unfortunately, my Execcute's in my hand instead of in the discard pile, so slightly unfortunate right there. But hopefully I can get a Rescue Stretcher. Actually, no, my Rescue Stretcher's in the discard pile. I mean, yeah, Giant Water Shuriken, or just regular Water Shuriken. He's going to start targeting down the Jolteon. That would be literally the only one. Well, it and Keldeo would be the only ones I would not target down because they can just heal the damage off with Rough Seas. And so what I'm going to do right here is just go right into my Jolteon. It does have free retreat. And, whew, that was huge. That VS Seeker top deck was gigantic. I mean, to be fair, I put myself in a very good position to draw stuff that I can use just because of my thinning my deck and anything. And so let's go ahead and rebirth with Ho-Oh. Get tails. Okay, please get heads. There we go. Okay, so the reason I decided to do that before I Battle Compressor the last Ho-Oh is because right here I can Ninja Boy, put this Ho-Oh back into my deck and grab a Xerneas, and then I can go ahead and Battle Compressor, just put that Ho-Oh right back in the discard pile so I can have it later if I need. So it's Ninja Boy, click the Ho-Oh, put a Xerneas on top of it, and yeah, now we're going to be able to knock out the Greninja Break. My opponent doesn't have much else going. Let's Battle Compressor, put those Ho-Ohs back in the discard pile, and yeah, let's do that. Let's just put those back in there. I'm not getting rid of anything else just because those could potentially add up to a bad spot. And okay, so right now I don't quite have the knockout. If I play the Exeggcute, I will. So it's a matter of, do I want to try to go for Ho-Oh or Exeggcute? I think the safe play is Exeggcute because Ho-Oh is 2 prizes and is weak to water. So just playing the Exeggcute down, it's like, okay, you know what? You can take 1 prize off this Exeggcute if you want. Otherwise, I'm gonna be able to. Otherwise, I'm gonna knock out. Well, I already knocked out the Greninja, but I mean, if he takes a prize on the Exeggcute, it's not a big deal. Like, it really isn't. That's just a wasted ability or resource or whatever. And Execcute's really not that consequential, especially because I'm down to 2 prizes right here. I have the VS Seeker for the Lysander next turn if I want to bring up the Glaceon and knock that thing out. So, yeah, I'm just in a very good position right now. I'm 2 prizes away, VS Seeker in hand. My opponent really doesn't seem to have much of anything. So, despite the incredibly slow start that we did have and the fact that my opponent was able to... He's going to be able to get 3 Aero Blitzes and 2 Clear Searches off, which is insane. But despite all that, we were able to come through and win this game because my opponent, as you can see, is going for the Clear Search. He is not disrupting my hand. I will be able to Lysander that Glaceon in and knock it out. So we will take round 1 and be able to go on to round 2. Sudowoodo actually seemed to put in a little bit of work. I'm not sure how much he actually did, but, I mean, who knows? He was at least able to limit my opponent's bench size when they had a bigger bench. So yeah, VS Seeker for that Lysander. Bring up the Glaceon and knock that sucker out for the win. I could have gone for a Ho-Oh for another type of Pokemon, but, I mean, that was kind of pointless in there. We do get another Xerneas and my Choice Band as my last 2 prizes. Ooh, we get 50 coins off of that. So, yeah, we do take round 1. Let's see how much damage we did. Not bad. But, alright, so it seems that 2 other people have completed their round 1 matches as well. So, yeah, waiting on 1, and I'm just going to go ahead and pause it until round 2 is about to begin. Alrighty, round 2 is about to begin in less than 10 seconds, so I was actually able to catch the round before it began, unlike round 1. I still apologize for that. And we are up against a Kane GR 1985 with it looks like a Turbo Darkrai deck, which I actually think we might have the advantage in. I don't know, it's kind of close. But either way, I start with... Wait. So I'm actually going to start with Jirachi. Go ahead and put that up there. Just because, I mean, Ho-Oh I can put in the discard pile. I have ways of retreating my Jirachi. And I draw a Darkness energy. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is Computer Search, get rid of the Darkness in the Ho-Oh, because I'm going to put the Lightning in the discard pile anyway when I retreat Jirachi. Let's grab a Battle Compressor, because I have a draw supporter in my hand. So let's play the energy there. Battle Compressor, get rid of Exeggcute, Ho-Oh, and a Fairy energy probably. Yeah, that way when I retreat Jirachi, I will have 3 energy in the discard pile, and then let's just go ahead and end, get a fresh hand of 6 cards, and I get nothing. So this is actually a little bit scary. So what I'm going to do, in order to make sure that I don't just lose immediately, is I'm going to propagate Exeggcute and just play it down. Like, that way Jirachi... I mean, I can't rely on Ho-Oh. And then, do I want to go ahead and play it? You know what? Let's go ahead and try to go for Rebirth. I don't get it. Let's see if I can get another one. And I do. Okay, so I know... Actually, you know what? It was still the right play to retreat Jirachi. That way I could get the energy onto the Ho-Oh. I can Ninja Boy into something next turn. I can Ninja Boy into Jolteon next turn if I want to. If my opponent knocks out an Exeggcute, that's fine. My opponent ends me. So I actually probably should have played the Choice Band onto Ho-Oh. But I didn't want to play it there just in case. I mean, I can save it for later if I need, and wow. Okay, so this is actually even better. Like, this hand is just ridiculously good. So as long as I get like a Float Stone or an energy, I'm gonna be able to knock out my opponent's Darkrai. And yeah, so my opponent does just retreat and pass, which is fantastic for me. And I even draw back into the Choice Band. So that's kind of the universe being like, you know what? I know you said you wanted to play it, but I got you right here. Let's grab the Hoopa, play it down. I'm holding on to the Lele for the time being, just because, I mean, Lele can get me any supporter that I want. If I want like an AZ, oh, actually it'll be searching for the Ninja Boy, because all I need is a single energy or a Float Stone, and I will be able to knock out my opponent's Darkrai this turn. Let's go ahead and grab Keldeo and 2 Shaymin. By playing the Keldeo and the Shaymin down, I will have enough types on my bench to be able to knock out the Darkrai. And okay, so we get nothing that we can particularly work with. Let's go ahead and Battle Compressor, get rid of the Ho-Oh, a Dark, and a Lightning, I think. Yeah, let's hold on to the Fairy, just in case. I could Shaymin for 2 more, hopefully draw into an energy. How do I want to play this? Could play the Xerneas down too, but let's just go ahead and Shaymin. Get 2 cards, see if we can get like a... And we don't get that, but we do get another Battle Compressor, which I can play. So it looks like I'm not going to be able to take the knockout on my opponent's... I'm not going to be able to take the knockout on my opponent's Darkrai this turn, so I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of the AZ, Juniper, and Fairy energy. That way I can Ho-Oh later if I want to, and then let's just go ahead and Ninja Boy while I have it. I mean, I'm not going to bother trying to be like, you know what, let's just draw for the turn, and then so Xerneas is ready to go, and then I'm going to go ahead and Lele for a Colress for next turn, just in case my opponent is able to counter my Stadium, because if he did, then I wouldn't have that bench spot open. Lele would just be a card in my hand that I couldn't play down, and if I wouldn't be able to play Lele down, then I would not be able to obviously get a supporter, so I'd just kind of be stuck there and in top deck mode. So by playing the Lele down, even if my opponent does discard my Stadium, I can always just discard the Lele, or well, actually probably would just be the Hoopa, the Shaymin, and the Jirachi at that point. And I get a Skyfield, so I'm very glad that I decided to do what I did. And there we go. So we get some stuff we can work with. Let's Float Stone up the Keldeo so that I do get that free retreat. Rush in on the Exeggcute and retreat back into the Xerneas. I'm going to play the DCE onto the Lele just for later in the game, potentially, if I need to. And then retreat into Xerneas. And do I want to do anything else? Do I want a Battle Compressor? Nope, I'm going to hold off on Battle Compressor, actually. because this way I can put a Ho-Oh back into my discard pile later in the game once I Ninja Boy. And okay, I get a Rescue Stretcher and a Fighting Fury Belt, which could actually be pretty nice. My opponent... Okay, so I just win. My opponent didn't have anything. That's very unfortunate. I mean, I feel kind of bad because, I mean, this was a very, very quick game. My opponent was obviously running a competitive deck. So, I mean, just the fact that you dead draw, everybody does. And so I feel kind of bad for my opponent in this situation. I'm playing down the Xerneas, just taking the victory right there. And, yeah, so we're going on to the finals in a very quick game against Turbo Darkrai. Once again, like I said, I do feel a little bit bad for my opponent because he just wasn't able to get anything much going at all. And the finals are about ready to start. Man, I thought my game was quick, so my opponent was evidently waiting on me. So we are up against Lucky Rui, I guess is how you say it, with a fighting and normal deck. So we do win the coin flip. Man, coin flips are just in our favor today. So we will want to go first. I mean, this deck can attack turn 2. Oh, can attack turn 1 in the right situation. But I still like to have, I still like to go first. That way I can get set up, use a draw supported turn 1 instead of a Ninja Boy, and then I can Ninja Boy turn 2 to be able to hit for higher amounts of damage. I start off with actually not a bad hand, in all honesty. What I'll be able to do is, I mean, I'll be able to get a Ho-Oh in the discard pile, I'll be able to Battle Compressor, get a couple energy in there, play a DCE onto my active Xerneas. That way all I have to do is just attach a Fairy in order to Rainbow Force, and I get a Shaymin. So let's go ahead and Battle Compressor, get rid of Exeggcute, Ho-Oh, do I want to get rid of Ho-Oh already? Dark and Lightning for sure, because I'm already going to be discarding a Ho-Oh. I can Battle Compressor it later, this way Exeggcute will help out with the, Ultra Ball if it comes down to that. Then let's Shaymin for 2 cards, see what we get, and... Ooh, this is... I kind of want to hold on to the... Man, I kind of want to hold on to the Fairy Energy, but I mean, I might as well just go ahead and Juniper, get rid of that, and then go from there. Really should have held on to the Fairy Energy. So let's go ahead and play the Fighting Fury Belt onto my Xerneas. Play the other Xerneas down. Do I want to do that? Because if I play it down, I can't Ninja Boy into it. And then, yeah, I'm just going to end my turn right there. Didn't play down the Skyfield. I have no need to play it down, and I want to guarantee that if my opponent plays a Stadium, then he will not be able to... well, then I'll be able to counter his before he counters mine, which should mean that I'll be able to win the Stadium War. And also, I kind of suspected that my opponent was playing Zygarde. I mean, if you're playing Carbink, you're probably playing Carbink Break, and you're probably running Zygarde. And we've seen Assault Vest come down. That is an item I have not seen in a long time, and is actually going to help my opponent immensely in this situation. So... either way, I mean, I'm in a relatively decent spot. We see the strong energy come down. That's not too big of a deal. He's not going to be able to attack. In the way he's playing, actually, he doesn't have a supporter either. So, I mean, honestly, we're just kind of getting... we're lucking out a little bit with the turns that we're getting right here. So what I can do... I have Ninja Boy in my discard pile. I don't want to end, that's for sure. So what I think... do I want to do this? So I can Lele into... or I can Ninja Boy into Lele, play the Xerneas down, and then just kind of two-shot the Carbink. Or I can Juniper, which would be getting rid of a DCE, hope I draw into the Fairy Energy in order to knock out the Carbink. So I can either go kind of risky, or I can go safe. Let's go ahead and try to Rebirth with Ho-Oh. Okay, there's only one in the discard pile, that's fine. Honestly, it wouldn't have done too much overall. I might have grabbed a Jolteon or a Xerneas or something like that. But I actually think I'm going to go for that play, the Lele play. That way I can at least start exerting some pressure without discarding a ton of resources. So let's play the DCE down, Ninja Boy, put the Xerneas back into my deck. That way I can Ninja Boy for it later. And then let's just grab the Lele to put some pressure. I mean, Lele is just so ridiculously good because, I mean, it's gonna be putting in work for me, and I'm not even going to be using Wonder Tag. Like, that's how strong it is. You don't need Wonder Tag for Lele to do some work. and unfortunately not able to knock out the Carbink because of the Assault Vest. But what I'm doing right here is I played the Skyfield down, because even though I'm not able to take advantage of it just yet, this kind of forces my opponent's hand, because I'm going to be discarding... one Skyfield is going to end up in the discard pile at the end of my turn regardless, and a Skyfield is going to be in play. Well, I mean, unless my opponent delinquents, which would just kind of make me sad. And even if he did, then Lele would still be able to just kind of keep attacking for pretty good amounts of damage, be able to just two-shot a bunch of stuff. And it looks like my opponent is just going to attach a DCE to Carbink. And, but anyway, back to the Skyfield thing. So I played it down. That way my opponent would be enticed to counter my Stadium. That way I could play my other Skyfield down, which would counter his Stadium, which countered mine, so that I'd force my opponent to play some Stadiums, waste a couple resources, that type of thing. And so, yeah, right here I'm just going to Juniper, see if I can get like a Keldeo and a Floatstone, and... Okay, so... Let's go ahead and Hoopa. So, I mean, I'm obviously not going to be able to Ninja Boy. Let's go ahead and grab Keldeo and Zygarde. Actually, you know what? No, I have Ultra Balls. Let's just grab Keldeo and 2 Ho-Ohs. That way I can knock out something. Well, not knock out, but play down something, get some stuff in the discard pile. Let's Ultra Ball, get rid of both Ho-Ohs, throw those in there. Let's grab... let's grab Sudowoodo. Sudowoodo, you're going to put in a little more work, limit my opponent's bench, even though he hasn't been playing much. And, how do I want to do this? Yeah, there was no Shaymin. There was no Shaymin, otherwise I would have grabbed that to try to draw into a Floatstone or a DCE or something like that to be able to retreat my Xerneas. So unfortunately, my opponent will be able to knock out my Choice Banded Xerneas this turn. But what I can always do is just... I mean, I have plenty of cards to work with. Like, I can just Ho-Oh. I can try to Ho-Oh, be able to Ninja Boy into a Xerneas onto the bench. So yeah, my opponent is actually going to take the first prize of the game. I will respond immediately with a knockout onto the Carbink. But for the time being, let's go ahead and Rebirth. I need to Rebirth, and I should be able to hit one of these. Oh boy. Okay, please don't go 0 for 3. That'd make me very, very sad. Oh, thank the Lord. So right now, I mean, Ninja Boy's going to be my supporter this turn. I mean, that's kind of what I was banking on, because I can always just Jirachi for a Juniper or a Colress next turn, and I kind of just wanted to use this turn to set up, because I will be taking a knockout on a weakened Carbink. I really don't need to... I really don't need anything extra to be able to take the knockout this turn. And then I am just going to go ahead and Energy Drive. I'm holding on to the Lightning Energy just in case. Like, I might need it for something else later. I get a prize. It's a Darkness Energy. So I can potentially start filling up the discard pile for... another potential Ho-Oh later. Regardless, my opponent doesn't have much going. Zygarde's going to be able to hit my Lele for some decent damage. But all I need to do is just retreat into my Xerneas, who will be able to knock it out, because 6 different... Wait. Because Lele and Hoopa are both Psychic. Actually, if I just play the Jirachi down, I'll have my 7th type. Or I'll have my 6th type that I need to take a knockout. What I'm going to do right here is, let's go ahead... I could Rescue Stretcher, but then that puts back a Ho-Oh or an Exeggcute in the deck. You know what? Let's just go ahead and do this. I don't like doing this, but I mean, I have Battle Compressor to be able to put those back in the discard pile. I might as well just put a Ho-Oh back in there. I can simply just Ultra Ball for it, and then play the Jirachi for a Juniper to be able to discard that stuff. So yeah, let's just Ultra Ball, get rid of that, grab Ho-Oh. There is not a Juniper in my deck. So let's actually grab the what do I want to grab? So let's just grab a Xerneas just because. It's another type on the bench. And then let's grab the Jirachi to grab the Colress, which will get us 9 cards. Hopefully a Battle Compressor or some ways of discarding some stuff. Xerneas will still be a card that I can work on later. And there we go. There's a Battle Compressor. Unfortunately, I draw into the Ho-Oh, but I mean, considering I was drawing 9 cards, that was kind of expected. Luckily, I do draw into a Floatstone. I could have also just played the Lightning Energy and manually retreated, but this way I get a hold on to it. And then let's Battle Compressor, get rid of the Ho-Oh. Yeah, let's just get rid of the Ho-Oh, I guess. The unfortunate thing that I drew into one doesn't really make a huge difference overall. I'm going to play the Lightning onto Lele, just have it there. Just be able to hit for a little bit more damage if I need. Able to take the knockout on the Zygarde right there, draw into a couple prizes. There is a Fairy and a Battle Compressor, so I can even start manually powering up my other Xerneas in the background if my opponent's able to get something else going. So yeah, right now I'm just about to... I mean, I'm pretty much steamrolling my opponent. If he counters my Skyfield, I can just counter it right back and then potentially actually be able to pretty easily refill my bench with what I have in my hand. And my opponent just attaches and passes, so this will be the game. And we're actually going to win the tournament, and that was relatively easy. Like, that was, yeah, the hardest match that I had was the round 1 match against somebody who actually gave me a little bit of trouble with that Greninja break, but go 1 heads and 4 tails. I mean, just kind of standard for me. And look at all that good stuff. That is gorgeous. I love seeing that. So yeah, that was a tournament. I was kind of expecting it to be a little bit longer, but I wanted to take advantage of the 24 ticket tournament while I could, and I was very busy this weekend. So Sunday night I was just, yeah, I mean, it's Sunday night, so I was just like, you know what, let's just go ahead and take advantage of it. I'm probably gonna have to narrate the deck part of the deck list part of this video a little bit later, so it's probably not going to be going up on Monday. My hope is to have it up by Wednesday, so fingers crossed on that one. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed, and you know what, because we won this tournament and it wasn't as competitive as I was hoping, I'm just going to go ahead and do a little bit, I'm just going to open up all of my winnings as they were. So yeah, let's just go ahead and open those things up. Alright, so TCGO kicked me out for a second, but we are back, and yeah, let's open up the Sun and Moon first, maybe pull a Secret Rare Ultra Ball. Got my fingers crossed on that one. I mean, it's only 3 packs, so I really doubt it, especially considering I have not opened one at all, but I'm trying to channel my inner Aura Bomb right now, because he has just insane pulling luck with the Sun and Moon sets, like Sun and Moon and Guardians Rising. His pull luck is just ungodly good, and it's actually really frustrating for me. But alright, so we do hit a Solgaleo. Not a full art, unfortunately, but I mean, that's still a decent card. Let's open up the Ancient Origins next, or the single pack of Ancient Origins that we have. Maybe get a full art Hoopa, something like that. I mean, well, I get a reverse Gyarados. How many do I have? 3? Not bad. That reverse Gyarados is kind of cool, and of course I get a Vileplume. I hate that thing. But yeah, let's go Fates Collide next. Maybe get a... I don't know, what was good in Fates Collide? I think it was like Alakazam. I honestly do not remember what all was good from Fates Collide. Mr. Mime was not one of them, but I think was like Alakazam the only good thing from... Man, I'm legitimately drawing a huge blank right now. I cannot remember what was good from Fates Collide. Well, I mean, that's an Altaria. That's nice. Alright, so wasted my full art on an Altaria, so kind of sad days, but I mean, it's still a cool card, and if it was decent, then that'd be nice. Get nothing from Steam Siege. Was kind of hoping for, I mean, like a Gardevoir, a Volcanion, or a Sycamore. Just get a Bisharp, which, I mean, considering Rainbow Road is now kind of dead, Bisharp doesn't do too much anymore. Roaring Skies has lost its value a ton. I was hoping to maybe pull a Shaymin or a Mega Ray, none of that, and then now we are on to the Guardians Rising. So, I mean, I'm hashtag praying for Lele right now. I have not pulled a single one of those. This will, I think, yeah, I've opened like 340 packs at this point and not a single Lele, so this will put me above 350. I mean, I've got my fingers crossed. That's a Toxapex. That is not a Lele. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, that could have easily have been a Lele, but nope, it was a Toxapex, which is worth, like, 0. And that Sharpedo card was very, like, disappointing to me. So I saw that, and, like, all it has is just one attack that does 70 damage. Like, that's literally the entire card. And so that kind of makes me, like, question that a little bit. But either way, we are just rolling right along, not pulling anything spectacular. Salazzle's not bad. I might try to do a deck with that in the future. But still no Lele's, just very, very, very sad. Get a Rescue Stretcher, a Reverse Hollow Blissey, and a Heliolisk, so still nothing. I've kind of lost hope at this point. I know I'm not going to pull a Lele, just because that's unfortunately how it's been going for me. Just 350 packs and not a single Lele pulled. I have literally pulled more Secret Rare Aqua Patches than I have Lele's. So Turtonator, I love you, baby, but you're not a Lele. I mean, a Hyper Rare Turtonator is always just very cool, because, I mean, like, Turtonator's awesome. I love Turtonator. It's probably my favorite card of the set, and by favorite, I don't mean, like, I think it's the best card in the set, but Turtonator, special spot in my heart. Got a Hyper Rare of it, which is always nice, but could have been a Lele. That could have been a Lele. And yeah, 2 packs left. Just my heart is just, it's not even breaking anymore. It's already just shattered. It's just the pieces are breaking. The pieces of my heart that are laying on the floor as a result of my Guardians Rising pull luck have been, like, the pieces of my heart, like, broken, just shattered, everything. I don't even know where I was going with that, but yeah, let's just look up that Turtonator, look at essentially what our winnings were from that tournament, and it's unfortunate that still no Lele, but I mean, Hyper Rare Turtonator, you know what, I call that a win. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.